No doubt you're seeing that this particular phone has been getting a lot of hype. This is the Mi 11 Ultra. Finally got my hands on one. This was sent out to me from Xiaomi. So this unit here, why is it getting so much hype? Well, it's packing a lot in terms of spec. There's a huge battery in here, very fast charging, 65 watts for both wired and wireless charging, and it will do it in under 40 minutes. Is impressive. And then the cameras, that's where a lot of the hype is being generated. We've got the 50 megapixel with optical image stabilization, the GN2, 248 megapixels, one's ultra wide, the other has 5 times optical zoom. So similar to what we had with the Mi 10 Ultra that I reviewed, and I've been so curious to see if just how Xiaomi have stepped things up with this model. Now the screen is also very good on this, very impressive, 6.81 inches, 120 hertz. This is a 1440p screen, super bright as well, with well over 1500 nits in the right conditions, that is, if it goes into the sunlight mode. So in this unboxing and hands-on, I will go into a little bit of detail. I'll take a look at this, and then at the end give you my first impressions of just what I think here of the Mi 11 Ultra. So exactly what do you get inside the box of the Mi 11 Ultra here? We've got our Type-C to Type-A cable. The charger is 67 watts. And you can also get a 67 watt charger for this one. So it will charge this phone in a very quick time, which is under 40 minutes. So they claim 36 minutes. And well, it's about 39, 38 for me. But it depends, of course, on what level you're charging from. SIM tray tool right here. There is a Type-C to 3.5mm adapter. Great that they do include this. There is no 3.5mm jack on this one. Unfortunately, that has gone from most flagships now. There's a user guide, warranty card, and a TPU case. This one, of course, has a very large cutout for the large camera module that this phone does have. First thing you notice is when you get this phone, you take it out of the box, wow, it's got a bit of heft to it, that it is chunky, it is heavy. 234 grams is their official weight. I measure 236, which is not far off that. Thickness-wise, it is a thick phone too. So 10 millimeters, the thickness here, include that rather chunky camera module that brings it up then to 15 millimeters. And you can see that it is very, very large. And of course, it houses a lot in this, a lot of tech, and a lot of high megapixel counts here. So two 48 megapixel cameras, which is our ultra wide, the 5 times optical, and then the 50 megapixel camera there. That one has an f1.9 aperture, 2 LED flashes in there. It looks like it's 3, but I'm only seeing 2 in there. And then, of course, a little screen on the back of it. Now, this screen, if you double tap, it will come on. You can display other things. It is a color screen. It is, in fact, a Mi Band 5 little screen that is in there, and it's rather handy, and you can use it also as a viewfinder, but just for photos at the moment. No video support with that just yet. So this has a curvature to the edges of it in hand. It does feel quite good, and I'll show you that in-screen fingerprint reader. This one is very quick. The animation there quite fast too. So it's about a second, under a second to unlock. You see when I touch that. So really, really quick. No problems with that. Now the camera right up here, this one, you can see has the cut out there. So a little punch hole, 20 megapixels, this one right here. And I believe it is f2.4. The Ultra has a metal frame around the outside. Here is our SIM tray tool, so it does take 2 nano SIMs, and you can only run one of them at 5G. If you try and run 2 at 5G, it will disable the other SIM. So it's just 1 at 5G. Antenna line, Type-C port, so this does not support video out. Sadly, they have not added this yet with their flagships, and I do believe it's time that they did. Microphone and one of 2 loudspeakers, which are downwards firing and then upwards firing. So over my years reviewing phones, I have seen a lot of displays, and I rate this as the best so far that I have seen for a display. So 6.81 inches, HDR, Dolby Vision. This has a brightness that does top out at well over 1500 nits, and it is really, really bright. You can make it out in direct sunlight. Now, I've seen the screen of the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. That is also excellent. This one, however, is a little bit better for me because it does have these advanced options like here, DC dimming. Now, this is great. It stops any low brightness flicker coming through. The people are sensitive to that with OLED and AMOLED displays. A lot of people do have the issue with that. Refresh rate, 120 hertz. And of course, this does have the WQHD plus resolution, so 1440p P basically, and you can adjust and change this if you don't want that. You want to save on the battery a little bit, lower down that resolution. And when using the phone at normal distances, I can't tell too much of a difference on a phone screen when chopping that resolution down to the lower one there. So for those that want to save a bit of battery life, however, when I put it onto 60 Hertz, I do see that. So it has a dynamic adaptive refresh rate too as well. So it will adjust from 30 to 60 to 90 depending on the content as well. So we've got all your different options in here for dark mode, schedule that, reading mode, color, scheme. I really do love all the options we get in this. It's great for geeks like me. So original color is the one I prefer. It is auto on recommended by default. And to me, it looks a little bit too bluish, the white balance, but hey, that's just me personally. Overall, great display. I only really have one tiny little criticism with it. I wish this was more symmetrical, these points here on the corners. I don't know why they've done this, perhaps to make it a little bit stronger, more resistant to drops, but I really wish it was more squared off there. Would look a little bit better to my eyes. So the front covered with the Victus glass should make it very drop resistant, and it does even come with a screen protector pre-applied out of the box. The ceramic on the back, I don't know how drop resistant that one is. I think it might actually be a lot more prone to cracking. I guess we'll find out when people start to use and own these and they end up being dropped, all those silly bend tests and all that other YouTubers like to do. So excellent performance. This runs here the UI at 120 frames per second. Certain applications you will notice, or at least I do pick up on this, that if I go into YouTube, it doesn't quite feel the comments. It's not running at 120 frames per second, but very, very quick here. Now I, with this review unit that I got from Xiaomi, have the 12 gigabytes of RAM here, 256 gigabytes of storage, and it is excellent. So far, my time testing is this thing, like the Mi 11, super quick. And it's just, of course, slightly different, better cameras, larger battery capacity, a little more heavier. So if you're not really into the cameras, then the Mi 11 still, of course, is a very, very good option. So there's a couple of little things that I have been testing out in my first little hands-on and look at it, and I wanted to point out. So it does come with MIUI 12.03, and this version doesn't have the big updates that are coming with 12.5, and pretty much this apparently is like still a beta, or at least the camera software they claim is still a beta Xiaomi. Security patch level is March, okay, so we're in April, so that's not too bad there. And of course running Android 11. When the new updates come out, I will certainly probably post an update of that. Now you do get quite a bit of bloatware. This has been happening throughout all of their range of phones, not just the low end, the mid-ranges, but also the flagship. So I did count about 20 applications, so they've toned down a little bit compared to, say, the mid-range or the Mi 11 Lite that I reviewed, a lower-end phone. That had about 20 and about 2 gigabytes on that one. This is only about 1.6. Very easy to uninstall them. However, people say that I'm nitpicking. I don't believe that this should be here on such a premium phone. Now, advertising in the ROM with the uninstaller application, or the installer application, I should say, and then the cleaner, so far I haven't actually seen any advertising in it. So crossing my fingers that's not going to happen. So very, very good score here with Anutu. Almost 700,000. Look at that GPU score. So Xiaomi really does push the thermal limits, let the GPU perform to the maximum. But as a result, I have found that this phone does get very hot with gaming, especially. I found that Genshin Impact will start to get really, really hot. Internal storage speeds, they are good, very, very fast here. Not the fastest I have seen, which is, in fact, the Mate X2 that I reviewed, which was really quick, but still, for UFS 3.1 standard, this is really good. That's not going to be a bottleneck at all for a phone like this. And we do have Widevine level 1 search, so it does support HDR10, HDR10+, 60/90 and 120 Hz refresh rates too. You can see listed at the top. And Camera 2 API support. That's as far as I've gone with the tests. GPS and everything else will be in the full review with that. Onto our audio quality. So I've been reviewing Xiaomi phones for, well, ever since the Mi 2S, and the audio quality has most of the time been some of the best out there. Now, we don't have the 3.5mm headphone jack, sadly, okay? But you have to use this, the adapter, and the quality is excellent, really, really good. So I've annoyed my wife with a few test calls with this phone, and the audio quality with the calls, really good. No issues with that at all. And the loudspeakers, they do sound great. So they come out the bottom, out of the top. And I like the fact when gaming, because it's so loud, they're powerful speakers and very rich. They add to the immersion of the gaming too, because it makes the case vibrate while the back of it and the phone a little bit, which is great. But here's a sample now of the loudspeakers at maximum volume. What about the haptics feedback on this? So I rate the haptics motor in this as nothing special. So typing away, if I just type, well, just anything here, that you do feel the nice little buzz from it, but it's not the best that I have felt out of these with the haptics engine. I think the K30 Ultra and even the Poco F2 haptics feel just a little stronger and nicer with this, but overall, I'd say it's average. It's just not exceptional, that's all. So this is the case on the phone. So we've got perfect cutouts for everything, a raised lip around the screen. There's a little raised lip here that goes all around the outside of this camera module, cut out for the microphone for the audio zoom. So I'm a little worried about this being all glass on the back here. I don't want a big scratch over that camera module, so I will definitely be using this case. I'm someone that always places my phones down on the table like that. Always on display, of course, is present with this flagship phone, and you'd expect it, the spec of this phone, of course, and the price of it. So lots of different options and customization we can do here with MIUI 12. Now, I don't go too deep into the UI, into Android, because I think a lot of you are already Xiaomi users. You know all that kind of stuff, so I'm not going to repeat too much of that, and I don't typically do this in my videos as well. So to demonstrate that always on display, power and off, there it comes up. It will give you messages about notification, battery life, and of course, you can still use the rear screen. You don't have to have this always on. It does eat into the battery. This rear screen here won't have much of an impact at all on your battery life because it is a super low powered screen from the Mi Band 5. And a little preview here of gaming performance. So if you have been living under a rock, you probably don't know which title this one is. And it is Genshin Impact. This is the most demanding game currently on iOS and Android, I believe it is. And it does really push systems very, very hard. Anything like your tablets and even PCs with a PC game. But here on Android, it does start to get quite warm when you're playing this game. Now, performance is very good. On even the highest settings, you can swipe here and you'll see that it normally runs around 60 frames per second all the time, which is great. Now, occasionally there's a few little frame dips, and that's not really a problem. But what I have noticed that after about 5 to 10 minutes of gaming, if you are on the high settings, that this will happen. So what happened here is you can see the screen looks a bit dimmer. And no, I did not turn down the brightness. Screen dimming takes place when the phone starts to get very, very hot. So touching it, it is warm to the touch, uncomfortable, and it will get close to 50 degrees Celsius, even with my 23 degrees ambient room temperatures here. So that's something to bear in mind. Now let me talk a little bit about that rear display. I know it's getting a bit of attention, and it's a nice thing to have there. I probably wouldn't really be using it that much myself, but it's handy to have. So you can theme it. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can add an image, a photo of yourself on there if you wanted this. And it is handy to have, don't get me wrong. And you can use it definitely as like an on-screen display. You can double tap it, which is handy. So you can see now when I flip the phone around, that it will come on then. And that's handy if you just need a quick peek at look at the time, because that is a very, very low powered screen, and that little OLED, that is a Mi Band 5 screen. It doesn't have a high refresh rate. I can see when I use the camera and you use the rear camera to have this showing as a viewfinder, that is quite laggy and slow, and that's to be expected the type of screen it is. It's all about saving battery, that screen, or that one of course. Double tapping it, that tends to work most of the time. I found that sometimes when it's been off, that I've gone to double tap it, and I've taken 2 or 3 goes then to get it to show up. But there it's working for me fine. So we'll demonstrate this very quickly with the camera. So once you unlock it here, okay, flip over to the camera. And if you want to use it and use the main cameras, you can use and enable it right here. You've got this option. So that is called the rear display preview. That is on now. And we're going to get a ugly shot of my lighting and the C-stand and all that above me. But you can see that. Now when you move it around, you see that that doesn't seem to be refreshing, at least for my eyes, at 30 frames per second. But I still think it's enough for video. I hope that it will support video. So yes, vloggers out there, that if you intended or were hoping to use this little rear screen as, say, the ultra-wide or the main camera, to use those as vlogging cameras or for selfies, you can do it for photos, like right now, but it won't work for portrait mode at the time of this video. I hope that if Xiaomi, are you watching this video, that please do add support for video and portraits as well, so we can take advantage of these really good main cameras. Now, just to briefly show you what we can do with the cameras here in the application, some of the options that it does give us. So video mode here, you've got the ultra wide 48 megapixel, 50 megapixel main, and then you've got the 5x optical, and there's going to be some samples coming up shortly. Super steady mode, all right, and you've got the two different options. You've got the main camera, and then they have, that's the steady video, and then the the Steady Video Pro, uses the ultra wide to try and get it even more steadier. It's very, very aggressive stabilization they use with that. So with video options, what have we got? We've got a lot, okay? You've got AI camera, audio zoom, you've got tracking moving objects, which is very good for fast moving 3-year-olds, like my own 3-year-old that doesn't sit still for more than 2 seconds. Macro here as well. Now the macro range to get up really close to things isn't as good as the dedicated macro cameras. It uses the ultra wide. The main camera, it can't really focus any closer than about 5 or 6 centimeters. It doesn't like to get up to objects too close. It just simply will not focus. So 4K 60, this has electronic image stabilization, 8K 24 frames per second. This is a proper 8K, not the 30 frames per second AI 8K that we have seen. So there's a lot of options in there. Photo mode, AI, HDR, auto. You got different filters. Portrait, you can adjust the background blur, more filters there as well. Under more, 50 megapixel mode, various different other options. Super Moon is one I need to also test out. And over to our cameras now. So this is the front-facing camera. With this one, we have electronic image stabilization, 320 kilobits per second audio bitrate, but it does not have 4K, which would be really good. I mean, come on, this is their top dog when it comes to cameras. Their top smartphone, Xiaomi, I really do think that the flagships now should have 4K, 30 and 60, and not just this 1080p, which is very good quality. As you can see, stabilization is good. There is quite a bit of a crop to it, and if you move around very quickly, you don't tend to see too much rolling shutter effect come through this. I mean, it is only 1080p footage. Rear camera now, so this has electronic image stabilization. I'm shooting with the ultra wide, and I do apologize for the wind noise. It is very windy here on the coast, as you can imagine. So 320 kilobits per second audio. This is 4K 30, and now as I zoom in, the great thing is it swaps over to the other cameras. So you'll see the transition right now. That is 1x. So I jog down these stairs. Stability is very good. I have noticed sometimes some panning judder, noticeably on areas where the exposure changes a little bit, or very bright scenes. It doesn't seem that smooth to me. So I'll now demonstrate the digital zoom that we have with this. I'll focus on the iron tower. So I'll take it up to 5x. 5x is now. You see how it transitioned, it swapped over. So 5x optical looks all right. Going up to 10x now, the quality definitely does degrade a little bit there. So that also has the optical image stabilization. I'll pull right back here, back to the ultra wide, and very, very good quality with this. You can shoot 4K 30, 60, and even 8K with the ultra wide and the main camera. Okay, so bear in mind, I've only had this phone for 1 day, so I'm not going to make any outrageous claims or anything like that. But first impressions, looking at the camera, there were some areas that I can see already that do need just a little bit of optimization. For example, bright colors. I've noticed that with at least bright red, some of the flowers I took photos of, there's a bit of clipping, oversaturation, so there's some tweaking definitely needed there. Don't get me wrong though, it does take a very, very good photo, both the ultra wide and the zoom camera. I am impressed most with the zoom camera on this one, just as I was with the Mi 10 Ultra. Very, very good, great stability from it, and it takes detailed shots thanks to the megapixel count, the optics on there, and even zooming in a little, like 10 times is still very usable, and even 15 and 20, well, that starts to get a little bit less, of course. It starts to degrade a little bit there. Now, video performance seems very, very good. I've noticed a little bit of panning judder from time to time, and I've seen this with other phones with Xiaomi, but thankfully, finally, we can, and it's not the first phone to do this, I believe, that we can start to now use all of the cameras in video, so you can swap over, as I showed you, to the ultra wide, the main camera, and then the zoom one. The transition, just like other manufacturers, is noticeable when you chop over, different white balance between the different lenses and the cameras and the sensors, so that's normal. And then, okay, the rear screen on this. For selfies, you can only take a normal photo with this rear screen. So at the time of this video, my just first impressions here, we cannot shoot vlog video with it, okay? So that's a bit of a disappointment to me. I'd love to use the ultra wide for some vlogging video. Even the main camera would be okay for that. And you can use the viewfinder, even if it was just a choppy 15 frames per second or 20, I do hope that Xiaomi implements this. And also portrait mode, you cannot use with the rear finder. But normal portrait photos, really good. I did love some of those photos of my 3-year-old daughter. She was always moving around, even when she was holding those snails. Great shots. And by the way, no snails were harmed in the making of this video. They went back to chewing on the grass and the weeds and other bits and pieces. We put them back there, so they weren't harmed there, so don't worry about that. Battery life on this. Okay, it's looking similar to the Mi 11. It's going to be about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time at 120 Hertz. And then around 8 to 9 if you put it on to 60 or you lower the resolution as well. Both of those will extend the battery life, and I'll probably cover that in my full review. ROM performance is good. Now the areas that I think Xiaomi, if they're listening to some constructive criticism, a bit of feedback here, would love to see video out. Finally, that should really be here now. Come on, with the flagship, a desktop mode with video out, or even just desktop mirroring, screen mirroring would be handy to have with this. And then the 3.5mm jack, that went, of course, okay, that was bound to happen. Front-facing camera, so only 1080p for vloggers again, just 1080p. So it's not really a vlogger's mobile just yet, unless they can, of course, add the support for that rear screen, as I mentioned just before there. So what other areas in this one? So charging time, great, brilliant. It's so fast, under 40 minutes, around 38 minutes or so to fully charge it. I've only tested out the wired charging. I don't have the wireless charger that this one does support here. 10-watt reverse wireless charging, also an impressive feat. Now, screen dimming. It's there, it's present, it's been on a few other phones. When it gets very warm, like recording, especially 8K video, recording that, and even 4K in the sun, even though it's white, the screen did start to dim down on me, and I've seen this before. I saw it on the Mi 11, so that is there, that is present. And when you play games, so Genshin Impact is a super demanding game that really makes phones cook. So Xiaomi clearly, to me, pushes the thermals on this. They allow for a higher surface temperature. They don't seem to throttle the phone at all, but yes, it will get up to about 49, 50 degrees, so very warm to the touch. In my full and final review, I probably will touch on that. I'll get my thermal imaging camera out, but I know the temperatures are going to be quite toasty there, so if you're in a hot climate and you're going to game Genshin Impact, I would certainly lower the settings down just to keep the temperatures under control. Maybe even consider running it, even though it's not that great, 30 frames per second. So thank you so much for watching my first impressions unboxing video here of the Mi 11 Ultra. Now, if you did like this video, please do subscribe. And thank you so much for watching my video on this, because I know that there are now like about 200 other videos on the Mi 11 Ultra. So you've got a lot of people to choose from, others that have really high production quality and things like that. So do thank you for choosing and selecting my video to watch it. And I do hope to see you back with a full review and more up and coming reviews of Xiaomi products and, well, all sorts of tech.